Okay, Senator Jeff Flake, kind of surprising folks in Capitol Hill today by announcing he is not going to be running for another term in the U.S. Senate. Big question is, how will he vote when it comes to taxes? Will he be for a tax plan, even if the president is for the tax plan? Because they don't like each other, but that doesn't mean that they might not both enjoy tax cuts. Let's bring in Art Laffer, Laffer Associates Chairman and former Reagan economic advisor. One of the problems that I have with the tax plan as it's being rolled out, and we're just getting snippets of it here and there and elsewhere, is that it's getting too complicated. To me, it's simple. Have a clear, across-the-board tax cut. Very clear, it's getting muddied instead by the question of new rates for the richest. There's something called a foreign minimum tax that we heard about in the Washington Post today for profits that businesses make overseas. Why not just have it very simple, a clear, simple, across-the-board tax cut?
I'd love that. In fact, my suggestion from the very beginning was to get the corporate rate from 35 to 15 and have nothing else. Now, there are a couple of other things in the bill I really, really like. I like the expensing. I like the territorial. I like a lot of the other stuff. I like the inheritance tax gotten rid of. There are a bunch of things I do like in the bill. But just one thing, cut the corporate from 35 to 15.
Right.
We'll have such a boom in the economy. The revenues will be pouring in. It'll pay for itself by a lot over a 10-year period. And why not just do that? And then after the boom has started, then in the comfort of prosperity, we can sit and talk about all these other little nitbit things. And you and I, David, will sit there in Gucci Gulch with our bottle of scotch, just like Packwood and Moynihan did, and we'll solve all the world's problems. We'll get rid of every deduction, exemption, exclusion. Okay. We'll lower the rates. We'll have a flat tax, and Nirvana will be here.
I hate to disappoint you. I just go for a regular beer at the end of this process. But
I don't even take that, by the way.
Here's the problem, is that the president seems, and a lot of Republicans have bought into this notion that we have to be, and I'm using their words, as progressive as the current tax code. Now, progressivity is not necessarily a good thing. That has led, in my mind, over the past 7 years, to gross income disparity over the past 7 years. The higher tax rates have gotten, the less progressive we have come in terms of narrowing that income gap. In fact, in the Reagan years, when you had across-the-board tax cuts for the rich as well as the poor, look what happened. The income actually increased. The poorest 20% did just as well as the richest 20%. You can put up those figures.
Yeah, that's very true. Not only did they do that with the numbers you show, but the thing that's really amazing there is there's a huge bias against the lowest 20% because they're looking at average incomes there, and all these people get jobs that they had no income before. So you're adding them all to the very base, so it's a huge bias against the bottom 20%. And in spite of that, the bottom 20% did almost as well as the top 20%. It's an amazing phenomenon there. Well, we made the poor richer by getting jobs for them.
But the main thing isn't knocking down the rich. The main thing is bringing everybody up. And as long as there is mobility, as long as the poorest people are getting into the middle class are getting into the rich, everybody's doing a little better when the economy grows. That's what we should be. That should be our target, should it not?
Yeah, and the other thing that really gripes me, David, is they want to cut taxes for everyone. That's silly. I want everyone to pay more in taxes because they make a lot more, because they have jobs where they otherwise wouldn't have had. This is a jobs bill, and that's what it should be. Jobs bill help the middle class enormously. Wages go up, and people who didn't have jobs now have jobs. It's an enormous thing. But why worry about all this other silly stuff? Just get that corporate rate down, and I'd go down to 15%.
The question is how much you get it down. The president first talked about 15%. Now he's talking about 20% before the negotiations. If it goes much higher than 20%, would that be enough to bring companies back from Ireland where it's 12.5%?
Well, you know, there are gradations throughout it. But I don't want you to become a Debbie Downer. This is going to be a great bill. It's going to pass. It's going to start the prosperity. Once the prosperity starts, David, then you're going to see this machine starting to hum and roll, and everyone will join the process. And within the next 7 years, we will have tremendous tax reform, tremendous growth. ACA will be repealed, and I mean the trees will blossom, the fruit will be born, the animals will multiply.
I think trees will blossom regardless, Art. But the fact is, make it simple. Make it simple.
Make it simple. Well, James Carville had a great line on that, didn't he? He called it KISS. Do you remember that one? Carville said, keep it simple, stupid.
Yep.
You know, and that's very true. Everyone understands why the corporate rate needs to be lowered. Everyone does. We're the highest in the world. Lower it, get us competitive, and we'll get jobs, and then it'll all be better.
Remember KISS. It's very simple.
Remember
Art Laffer,
KISS. It's a
good
great
to see you,
line.
my friend. Thank you
Great
very
to
much.
see you,
Thanks for
David.
the optimism,
Thank you.
as always.